Welcome to my channel. This is the Diamond Chrysalis, aka Divested Diamonds. This is divestment with purpose, and you have arrived. Greetings and salutations, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for being here today. Please do me a favor and click the like button as you watch this video. Thank you kindly. In today's premiere, I'll be addressing a couple of comments. In addition to that, we shall be discussing Tamar Braxton's relationship breakdown, Jodie Turner-Smith's pending divorce, and what we as Black women can learn from these red flag-filled relationships that certain Black women keep falling for. This video will be split into two parts because I don't want it to be too long. So 2023 has been the year of breakups for many celebrities. Let's start with Tamar Braxton. You know, when I first heard about this relationship, the first thing that came to mind was, it's not gonna last. And it's not because I dislike Tamar. I don't. The whole thing to me just seemed a little performative on his part. She, on the other hand, seemed genuinely happy. However, there was something a little odd about him that I couldn't quite put my finger on. It all became clear once I discovered that he had 5 children with 4 different women.
Bruh.
And previously, there had been some baby mama drama between Tamar and one of his other women who accused Tamar of, quote unquote, causing chaos. But according to Essence, Jeremy defended Tamar at the time. See, here's the issue with this relationship and why it was never going to work out anyway. There's too much baggage here. Jeremy is no different from Pookie, Ray Ray, Tyrone, or Quantavious. The man couldn't even take himself seriously, so I didn't understand how or why Tamar would. Jeremy wasn't just a walking red flag. He was a walking catastrophe. Now, I know that most males believe that it's attractive or normal to live life as community sperm donors, but this to me is disgusting. They keep talking about single mothers not being desirable, but what is desirable about a man who can't control his penis? The fact that this male spread his fertilizer to cultivate so many children with different women makes him an unworthy candidate, not only for a relationship, but for marriage as well. Getting into a relationship with a Rolling Stone will bring nothing but stress because not only would you have to deal with those children and their needs, you also have to liaise with their mothers and build some sort of relationship with them. And that's if you can stand each other or are even able to get along. Now, I do understand that this would have been Tamar's third marriage had they decided to tie the knot. But she was only bringing one child to the table. So why engage with a man who has so many? She was never going to have peace with the other baby mamas. Never. Ladies, these types of men are barely there for their own kids. And you as a spouse would never be a priority because there's always so much going on outside of your relationship that you would be forced to, quote unquote, understand or have to deal with. He willingly created 4 single parent households. So how does that translate as responsible? Again, there's nothing wrong with dating out, obviously, because as a swirler, you're going to date out. That's the whole point of swirling. As a divestor, you are going to explore your dating options too. But here's the thing. I've noticed that some Black women have the tendency to not be stringent with their vetting process when it comes to dating out, simply because the person they're interested in is of a different race. There's this false sense of safety and security that really must be addressed. Different doesn't always mean better, as we've seen so many times before. Men are men at the end of the day, and you're not in a relationship with his color. Character is really what matters. And vetting is and should be universal. Don't get too comfortable, or else you be doomed to repeat the same negative issues from past relationships. I'm sorry, but after finding out how many kids he had, with that many women, I would have exited stage left in a hurry, never to look back. If peace is really what you need, you must learn to discriminate against certain types of men. And what I mean by that is, if someone exhibits certain traits, certain behaviors that you don't agree with or can't tolerate, especially at the beginning of your relationship, you have the right to end things regardless of that person's race. It would help you maintain your safety and sanity. And then Bro had the audacity to put out a public statement before she did, to let the world know that it was he who had broken up with her and not the other way around. One thing you will notice about non-committal men is their need to always make themselves look good. And this is what Jeremy had to say. Pause to read, because I'll only read parts of it and not the entire statement. Yes, Tamar and I are no longer together. I ended the relationship to focus on getting back to positive energy and being a better person. Jeremy wrote on his Instagram story on Sunday, October 1st. What happened and why? That's our place. He continued. No, I never cheated. No, I wasn't there at her mother's place when her car was burglarized. What Jeremy was referring to here was when Tamar posted to her social media that she'd been robbed in Atlanta. She then disclosed that she doesn't live anywhere and isn't safe anywhere or with anyone. This got fans worried, and they started speculating and asking where Jeremy was, as well as asking if the two were still together. Let's continue. No, I never cared about fame, says the guy who was on a reality show, but okay. Robinson and Braxton, 46, met on the first season of the Peacock dating show, Queen's Court, which aired earlier this year. And while Jeremy was trying to let the world know that he had broken up with Tamar to concentrate on himself and his well-being, a source told People that the split was Braxton's decision. There's been a lot of drama, but the hope is that the nail isn't all the way in the coffin for them. She needs time, the source said. The ball is in her court. She's in a good mental state and has a village around her and supporting her through this. This relationship was going to be problematic for Tamar, given the many red flags on display here. You can't have peace with a man who obviously doesn't know how to keep it in his pants. Someone's bound to get hurt and transfer some of that hurt towards you. It kills me when women act as though they have no choice in matters that affect their own lives. It's perfectly okay to change your mind and tap out if your relationship isn't what you thought it would be. And this here is what Jeremy's baby mama had to say in regards to the quote-unquote chaos. She took to her Instagram, as you would, because it's not attention-seeking at all to put private matters in a public space, but I digress. She said the following: I have sat in silence over a year, respecting everyone's privacy while they disrespected mine. I've sat in silence while this person has come into my son's life and caused nothing but chaos and unnecessary drama. While I will not speak on my son's other siblings and what type of relationship their father or this woman has with them, Let me be clear for all who know me and all who know them. This woman is in no way a bonus or stepmom to my son. My son does not mean, quote unquote, everything to her, and she has not thanked God for me and truthfully, none of his baby mamas. She has said demeaning, disrespectful, and outrageous things about how I've chosen to co-parent with my son's father and the efforts I have made to keep him involved. She has made no effort to meet me, get to know me as a woman or mother, and has caused my son's father to miss visitation weekends and birthdays. I'm fine with people sharing their version of the story that they've created for themselves on social media and television, but what we will not continue to do is involve the son that I raise in someone else's shenanigans. And herein lies the issue with most of these situations. It's easier to blame the woman for not getting what you feel is owed to you by the man you chose to have a baby with. It's the man's responsibility to make sure he divides his time between his children fairly and appropriately. The new woman, in this case, Tamar, would have still had to have gone through the process of getting to know the other women, building some kind of rapport with them, and encouraging him to maintain those relationships with his kids based on a mutual agreement and respect from the other baby mamas, seeing as she would have been the main woman in his life. The only thing Tamar would have had to do was encourage him to stick to the arrangements out of respect and common decency. It would have been by no means her responsibility to make sure that his duty as a father was carried out. He's the father. That's his job. You have to understand as women in this type of situation that there's only one common denominator here. You got God. You fell for the trick, and the person partly responsible for the situation you're in is the man you all have commonality with. Part of that misplaced anger goes to you and your unchecked self-esteem. The problem with a lot of women is that they are willing to go into these situations with rose-colored glasses on, completely ignoring red flags, thinking that they are different, special, or better than the women who came before them. You can always tell a man's lack of integrity by the way he carries himself. A male with multiple children by multiple women shows a lack of self-respect, boundaries, and self-control with a heavy emphasis on irresponsibility. If he can treat other women in that manner, you better believe that he's capable of doing that to you as well. Luckily, Tamar didn't tie the knot with this man. He comes with way too much baggage. It's not worth it. It's never a good idea to test the mind, especially when you've attempted self-deletion, which Tamar allegedly has in the past. Don't mess around with your mental health, especially not for a man. There are certain things in life that just aren't worth it. While love is something most people seek, true love can only come from within. And before you offer yourself to another, make sure that you have enough love for yourself to be able to detach once things begin to get toxic. Let's move on to the comment section. Every now and then, the under the bridge dwellers, aka trolls, show up to let me know about myself. As a content creator, it's important to know that people aren't always going to agree with me and what I have to say. And that's fine. I get that. It comes with the territory, and I accept it. What I do find baffling sometimes is the level of ignorance, desperation, and pick-meism that certain Black women appear to have. And I have to admit that at times, it's kind of hard to tell whether these people are being for real or just missing cognitive function. So, a while ago, I posted this story onto my community tab, and if you've been here since the beginning of this particular channel, because I've had several, you will know just how much I hate pedestalizing any group of people. If you didn't know, now you know. I don't live in a vacuum, and I'm not part of any echo chamber where I'm constantly recycling information and ideas based on some cult-like trend or mentality. I pride myself on keeping things as real as possible because my purpose here is to see women, but especially Black women and girls, thriving, planning for their future, making better decisions, and essentially learning to love themselves. This self-love comes in the form of divestment. So, back to the topic at hand. When I shared this story of a young African woman from the country of Liberia who was almost deleted by her American husband, who had come to her country on a mission, working for the church as a missionary, it was important for me to share this as a fellow Black woman to warn other Black women of what happens when we as women keep our guard down, ignore red flags, and fall in love with the idea of being in love, especially without understanding whom and what we're dealing with. This post, just like many other posts on the community tab, are meant for awareness and engagement. They are conversational pieces. I do not care what a person's race is. I'm not here to pacify, protect, and be anyone's bulletproof vest. If you engage in tomfoolery and make it to the headlines, you will be talked about. I talk about everybody, regardless of race or ethnicity here. The kind of divestment I offer on this channel is not one of worshiping men of other races and pedestalizing them simply because I think that they are better. I don't do this because some of you may have some warped mindset in thinking that perhaps I'm just trying to sock it to majority of men who look like us, males whose behavior is irredeemable. Outside of their criminal activity, which mostly involves heinous crimes such as the deletion of Black women and girls, I couldn't care less what they get up to. As I was saying, this young Liberian woman named Jessica Lloyd was almost deleted by her married American husband who had gone to the country of Liberia to serve as a Christian missionary. Now, I'm going to have to let Eric Stone from TikTok tell the story. After all, it was because of him that this story went viral in the first place. Let's take a listen.
I need everybody to stop because we have an emergency story about Jessica Lloyd and Lucas Richard. Now, Lucas is a church minister from Iowa, representing this church.
Hi, this is Lucas and Lois Richard. Lois and I are privileged to be serving the Lord in Liberia in West Africa.
And Jessica is a student in Liberia with this organization. When these two met, they decided to hook up and she got pregnant. But there's way more to the story. Because not only did Lucas not tell her that he was already married, even though he was already bringing his wife to Liberia to help with the ministry work, as you can see right here. But he didn't tell Jessica's mom, and when she found out she was pregnant, she wanted them to get married, which they did. But then everything went south when his church reported that he was robbed, which wasn't true. When in fact, Jessica was the one that was hurt. Actually, she was almost killed by Lucas. Oh, and by the way, when he found out she was pregnant, he was injecting her with something that would cause a miscarriage, and he was successful.
He asked me to help her with $150 US, which I do monthly.
Now, he talks about how he gives her $150 every month to help her out, which I need you to keep in mind because that story won't add up in a minute.
I carried her to Hardell Supermarket. We bought one place, we bought all of those things. From there, we decided that I could drop her. I don't have to take her back to her parents, and that I could drop her there because at Bonneville Highway, she would get a motorbike and she would get there.
But I'm going to have to take it back because right before all this happened, he was already back in Iowa with his wife, and then he kept calling Jessica's mom and bugging her, being like, I gotta see Jessica, and then they finally agreed, and then he showed up and they took a little trip.
The first area where there was like pull tar that you could pull off on the main pull tar, I pull my trafficators on. Because two things. She's getting a motorbike to go back home, and I needed to check my back right tire because I've been having a problem with that tire. And I could feel when I was driving that something was not correct. So while she was waiting for motorbike standing on the pull tar, I'm I'm down there literally trying to jack up my thing.
He's not mentioning it is when Jessica got in the car, she was questioning him why he had a knife, because why do you have a knife? And he was like, well, it's just in case I run into an animal or a snake or something like that.
She's standing on the side of the coal tar, and I'm standing there doing this with the jack thing. And next thing I know, a motorbike comes out of nowhere and hits her. And she goes into a ditch, because right after this coal tar is like a little extra coal tar on the side of the coal tar. Right after that is just a big ditch. Okay. The motorbike hit her. She fell backwards and rolled into that ditch. I think she even fell backwards and hit the edge of the coal tar because she had blood coming.
Yeah, that's not what the man on the motorcycle said, nor Jessica, but we'll let you finish your story first.
At that point, I leave what I'm doing and I go to check on her and help her out and ask her if she's okay. I bring her up onto the coal tar. And at this point, this motorbike driver that just hit her is yelling out to other motorbikes, KK, whatever they're driving by, and this big lorry, big truck, big red truck, that was carrying, I don't know, a dump out truck, something like that, telling them that I heard the girl, that I did something to the girl. I don't know how they were saying, but they were yelling it out, screaming it out, and so they're stopping, and all these motorbike guys are stopping, and they're vexing me.
Now remember, he's not bringing up anything about the knife, and Jessica has an entire, I can't say it, but it's too graphic to even show.
I'm walking around the front to go get in the car. She was walking around the front with me. She goes around the front, and she's coming to get in the car. Then, something goes through the window, and comes and hits me right here on the head. And when it hit me, I did like this on the steering wheel. And one of the guys took a big stick and started pounding. He came in front of the Land Cruiser, and he started pounding on the thing. And so at this point, she's telling me to go. She would be okay as me then, because they think they're probably going to get money from me. Now
you know about that $150 I told you to remember? Listen up.
I had $400 in my pocket. No, 350 because I gave her 150. I had $350 in my pocket right here and some small in my wallet right here.
You said you had $400 in your pocket, but then you said, no, wait, you had $350 because you gave her $150. If I do math correctly, that doesn't add up.
So, I hit the gas and I started going. I didn't hit nobody. I even hit, before I put it in gear, I did like this so that it backed up. And then I went. And of course the motorbikes were following me. And the motorbike that hit her already had his motorbike out of the something. All I remember is that it was a red motorbike with a license plate in front. That's all I remember.
Okay, you said what you had to say. Now it's time to hear from Jessica. Now, I and many other people were having a problem understanding her accent, but plus the throat damage was probably definitely a big factor. But I found somebody who broke down what she said. So basically what it says is, Lucas pulled over to take a piss. When he was out there, he claimed that he saw a snake. He told Jessica he saw a snake and he told her to come out with the knife. And he told her to get closer, 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 and she was scared, but she came anyway. Once she got to him, she took the knife from him, bashed her on the back of the head and her throat. That's when the man on the bike showed up and handled Lucas, and then he called the rest of his crew to show up, and then Lucas ran away.
You met the women, or you open the car door, turn again, they grab and slaughtering again.
This is what he had to say.
What you talking about? When you saw the man, you was what again trying to...
The men want to get him. I said, the men want to get him. It's slaughtering again. My war standing there. You going to worry about men up here, right? They can't whip on yet. They can't dropping the ground.
So he's saying he saw Lucas hit Jessica, and she fell to the ground.
I won't catch that man alive. I want that man alive for reporting for the police.
For everybody that wants the church's information, here you go. And the church's website. And I want to make this one statement of, to all the churches who go to Africa to help the children, the way Lucas and the rest of you dehumanize these people so you can make some fucking money.
We thank the Lord also for a small group of believers that we're working with. These believers come mostly out of Islam. Most of them are illiterate, and so we're teaching them English as we teach through the Bible.
They don't need your language or your fucking Bible, so stop using African children just to make some fucking money. And if you want to talk about the history of Christianity in that fucking continent, then you're gonna have a long fucking day. My name's Eric Stone. Doses. Look who got arrested. Lucas Richard. For the ones who don't know, he was a Christian missionary who went to Liberia and attempted to kill this woman. And here's the official statement of the Republic of Liberia. But I want to make a couple points. Because if this was a black man in Africa who killed a white man in Africa, or a black man in Africa who killed a white woman in Africa, it would be all over the fucking news. But I had to go fucking viral just to get this woman's story heard. To where the church apologized because people protested, and even the United States of America Department of State got involved. Now what does that tell you? That white privilege is real, and that black women are the most disrespected human beings on the fucking earth. Because apparently, it's common for these Christian missionaries to go native, which means the heart of darkness, aka they go to these African countries and they justify their actions because they say there's too many demons and devils over there, that they inherit their bad practices to where these missionaries do these fucked up things. To the point where they have articles written about missionaries doing this, like infidelity on the mission field. Or missionaries protect your marriage because they need to talk to their spouses, their wives, about the possibility of having an affair. And these missionaries go over to these countries and do horrible things to these women and then get away with it and nobody does shit. And shout out to this creator because she pointed out the heart of darkness to me. And all the Liberian creators who reported on Jessica's story. So stop sending all these white Christian missionary men who go to Africa to save the children and preach the Bible when they just go there to take advantage of the people, make money, cheat on their wives, and harm the fucking women. And shout out to this man for saving Jessica's life and the rest of his crew. Because if he didn't, Jessica would be dead. Her story wouldn't be told, and this would just keep happening and happening and happening and happening with no accountability whatsoever. And to the church who defended Lucas when you found out the story, but you acted like nothing happened and he was the fucking victim, and then you apologized because people went out and protested your church this past Sunday, and you gave a bullshit apology where you said your original post where you defended Lucas was insensitive to the victim. Yeah, we're not going to forget. So thank you to everybody who shared this story, reported on this story, and got Jessica's story heard, because she is going to get justice. And Lucas, your day is done. My name's Eric Stone. Doses.
Now, let me preface by saying that I do understand that Eric Stone is a controversial figure, and his motives of why he built a channel, mostly pandering to the Black collective, may be brought into question, but I choose to look at the bigger picture here. Regardless of his motivations, he's bringing light to a lot of stories and topics that would otherwise be ignored. The only stories that I care about are those concerning women, but especially Black women and girls. Okay, so you all heard what Eric had to say. This was, without a doubt, a tragic story. What happened to Jessica Lloyd was nothing short of pure evil, and this is why I made this comment. I wish this young lady a speedy recovery and hope she gets the help she needs to cope with all this trauma. This is indeed very sad. My heart goes out to her and her family. Please be careful out there, ladies. Demons come in all shades and races. I can't believe the continent of Africa is still entertaining, quote-unquote, missionaries. Has history not taught these leaders anything? Shaking my damn head. After posting this, time had passed before receiving this very interesting comment in my spam folder. And this is what at Tamar Powell 8982 had to say. What was your reason for posting this, lady? You're doing the same thing that Synthetic G, quote unquote, used to do. And based on your post, I don't think you are actually divested. I think you are a undercover mammy that's still trying to get Black men and the Black community's approval and trying to prove something to them. The fear-mongering is corny and whack as pluck. We all know what pluck means. You see, girl, you should have just said the word. What, YouTube didn't allow you to? But anyway, I bet that the reason you ran to the divestment movement is because the Black men that you wanted didn't want you back, but you are ruining things for Black women that are genuinely attracted to non-Black men. Seek therapy instead of this quote unquote swirling gone wrong / fear mongering because it's trash as pluck. What is wrong with you? What is the matter with some of you women? Let me just gather myself. Let me gather myself so I could gather you, sweetheart. Give me a second. The desperation in this one is oozing like pus. Involuntarily, too. Okay, let's address her points. What was the reason for posting this? I have already explained this. Black women need to know and understand that not all men are created equal. I mean, it's common sense. And some black women already know this, but pick-me's are the only desperate bunch who require constant reminders and explanations for obvious things. What is wrong with y'all? Raising awareness for what's going on in the world, in real life, to start much needed conversations would normally be seen as something good, but not where pick-me's are concerned. These women are willfully naive, but just as dangerous as nakers because they strongly believe in the no snitching policy. This level of commitment to hurtful males is the same treachery applied to black degenerate males. You literally transfer the same loyalty to criminal males of other races. Let's continue. You're doing the same thing that Synthetic G, quote unquote, used to do. And based on this post, I don't think you're actually divested. Okay. One thing I've come to realize since being in this space for as long as I have is the hatred that a lot of black women harbor for other black women. The fact that you would call another black woman a slur. Synthetic G? Really? How original. That's a slur. A slur that's been used in this space by predominantly black males. What that tells me is that you're the one who's not divested. You are, how shall I put this? An aspiring swirler at best. Your assumption is that I'm pro-black, which I'm not. I'm pro-black women and girls, but I don't support any of these pro-black women because they have the same mindset as the demonic males that they protect. Evidence of that can be found in some of my past videos. You saying that I'm not divested is actually quite hilarious. As one of the original divestment content creators in this space, that really hurts my feelings. But seriously, on a serious note, I've been doing this for a very long time, sweetie. When this quote-unquote movement was created, we had a lot of pushback. You get to sit your ass online, find camaraderie with other women, and pretend to be in this divestment club because it sounds like fun, right? Doing this is a labor of love. And we got pushback from both men and women. We were called traitors, bedwenches, and all kinds of derogatory terms that black males and other pro-black individuals could think of. We were all included in the same category as quote-unquote swirlers, even though this quote-unquote movement had much more meaning to it than just dating out. Crystalline was doing the swirling thing, and while our messages were similar, divestment was more on a slightly different trajectory in comparison. Divestment meant safety, away from toxicity and away from Blackistan. You calling me an undercover mammy for bringing attention to a morally bankrupt white male who almost deleted a black woman after lying about the entire incident is super wild. This cantankerous behavior is part of the reason that majority of black women are lost. It says more about you and your cognitive function, your lack of self-awareness, self-esteem, and self-respect than it does about you trying to set me straight over something that I helped create. Every single day, I would get comments from black males calling me a check the screen and check the screen. And this was for encouraging black women to open up their dating options. The abuse didn't just come from black American males. African males were also in my comment section calling me this, check the screen. Some lame-ass dude from Ethiopia told me that. A Nigerian man called me this, check the screen. And some rando from Zimbabwe called me this, check the screen. The list of trolls that I had blocked was endless. And back then, I had way more subscribers than I do now. I've noticed that a lot of you internet divestors love to talk a lot of shit without getting your facts straight. You don't know me. I don't expect you to. My message has remained consistent, especially when it comes to vetting men of other races and discouraging black women from giving their time to unworthy men simply because they have a different skin tone. When Ami McClure's husband, Justin, was exposed for having a racist past about 5 years ago, there was a lot of debate amongst the swirling community as to whether or not he was indeed racist. He had attempted to build a career as a comedian, but most of his jokes fell flat because they were racially driven and not funny at all, in my opinion. He had said some really distasteful things about black women, but here he was, married to one and helping to raise her 2 biracial children from a previous marriage. This didn't sit well with a lot of people, myself included, seeing as he had no genuine career to speak of, but somehow managed to use these 2 beautiful girls that he had adopted for content, with their mother's cooperation, of course. Together, they generated a lot of money by using their adorability to draw people in. When that story broke, I did a video warning black women about the importance of vetting, and do you know how some of these black women reacted? They attacked me instead because they were willing to throw another black woman under the bus in favor of a quote-unquote reformed racist. They made all kinds of excuses for him. There were literally internet armies going around and false flagging people's channels. And they did all this because a lot of people had something to say about Justin McClure's insensitive comments on Twitter in past years. Some of the false flagging and threats actually came from some of the mods on Crystalline's channel. There was this particular woman named Vanessa West who stopped by my channel to tell me about myself. And I remember going back and forth with her at least a couple of times before I came to my senses. I sat there and thought to myself, what am I doing? I then blocked her and put an end to the nonsense. This happens every single time, so you're not special, sweetheart. Sadly, the majority of black women will always operate from a place of toxicity and enjoy it. Why? Because they're addicted to it. A lot of black women operate from a place of trauma, and this is why drama and gossip channels last longer in this place. Most black women love their dose of dopamine, always arguing and beefing with others for views and attention. They love it. They will not support content that elevates them because most of them are too far gone. They really don't care about doing better. You think I don't know this? Every time that I've tried to hold men of other races accountable for inappropriate behavior, Some black woman drapes her cape on and comes to the rescue. You are more worried about being picked or getting laid than you are about demanding respect or living with dignity. Most of you do not give a shit about doing better because it's never been on your list of priorities to do. Sad, sad, sad. You will chase after a man and be his protector, even though the very essence of him is poisonous. But I'm the one who needs therapy, right? The jokes keep writing themselves. Unfortunately, there are so many of you who bought into this new wave of divestment and somehow think that this is all about dating out. Some of you have such low standards and low self-esteem that you will scrape the bottom of the barrel for a man, any man, simply because he's of a different race. Women like you are the reason divestment turned into a joke because you lack self-awareness and the ability to see just how embarrassing you are when you sit on the internet and pedestalize, quote unquote, zaddy. You are literally saying the quiet part out loud and don't seem to understand your own cringe level. Sadly, you make us all look desperate. And FYI, I don't seek validation from anyone, and certainly not the so-called community or their fucked up cousins on the continent. Never have and never will. See, what a lot of you don't understand about me is this. I don't bow down to authority, and that is why I've been my own boss majority of my existence. I'm very comfortable with who I am. I've always danced to the beat of my own drum. I don't care about the company of others, let alone the approval of a non-existent community, whether on the internet or anywhere else for that matter. I'm not online for validation or some level of self-loathing acceptance. I'm here to share what I know with those who are truly interested in hearing it. It wouldn't matter if this channel only had 100 subscribers. If those people found value in what I had to say, I would still show up for them, and that would be enough for me. This validation argument is how most of you live. This is how a lot of you exist. Not me. If I decided to get rid of this channel today in order to concentrate on the other important aspects of my life, I'd still be fine. My happiness, unwavered. I'd continue to flourish. The question is, what does your life look like without social media? So no, I did not run to the divestment movement for anything. I am the divestment movement. My methods are certainly different from a lot of the others because I don't focus on pedestalizing men of other races. Those who genuinely date out do not sit on the internet advertising it. They just live life. As far as me not being able to get a black man, that's hilarious. Unfortunately, I'm what some of these black males would consider a preference. So no, it wouldn't be that hard to get a black man at all. But sweetheart, I'm not gagging for one. You, on the other hand, might be. There's nothing preferential about being their preference anyway, so even that in itself isn't a flex. Nor should it be. Ask Danny Lay and the others. Women like you are too male-centered for my taste. Everything that you say and do probably revolves around a man. You are too obsessed with the dating part of divestment because it involves dating outside of your race. And that, to you, is the pinnacle of your excitement. And that is why you got irascible with me over some low vibrational missionary. If this is what makes you moist, do you, sis? Just don't bring that degraded and decayed mindset over here. Now, I do understand that for some of you, these males don't even have to try to be better people. You will take them no matter what condition they come in. The difference between me and you is that I'm more stringent with my vetting process and would never give my time, effort, and energy to any man who who didn't meet my standards. I would rather be alone. You're worried about me exposing a liar, a male who attempted to delete a woman because you're afraid that I will ruin it for Black women who, according to you, genuinely want to date non-Black men? Is that your caliber of men? No moral compass, lies through gritted teeth, uses women and tries to delete them when he doesn't get his way? He preaches about a religion that even he doesn't believe in, and whilst doing that, taking advantage of people who live in unfortunate circumstances and then calling them illiterate? This is your king? Well, that says a lot about your taste. The types of men I would date, sweetheart, have no social media presence. These are not people you can just Google and expect to find results. I'm attracted to intelligence and power, not derelicts. That's your lane, not mine. Your desperation is showing. And from this trashy comment you left, it's clear to see that you're the trash collector for other communities' vagabond males. When I talk about Black women divesting, it doesn't mean looking through the trash for unworthy men. Women like you are surface level internet divestors, the type who are only divested in the comment section of those who pedestalize quote-unquote zaddy. Your divestment begins and ends on the internet with your uninformed, uneducated, lackluster written comments. The sad thing is, you are so blinded by your cult-like mentality that you can't handle women who've dated out and married out because it's something they've always done out of choice and not as a filler or an internet social media trend. You can't handle someone like me because I'm able to call out the BS of any group of men without fear of never being picked. And you telling me to seek therapy instead of this quote-unquote swirling gone wrong / fear-mongering is ridiculous. I'm not inclined to take advice from any entity whose avatar is a letter. And by the way, if you're going to take time out of your day to insult someone, could you at least make sure that your grammar is in check? Because this is very pitiful. The truth of the matter is, what I do on this channel isn't for everyone. I'm aware of that. I'm not running a cult, and I don't believe in worshiping and pedestalizing men of any race just because. Do I have my preferences? Absolutely. They don't include Black males. Unlike some of you internet divestors, swirling gives you purpose. I've always dated out and have never ever needed permission from anyone to do so. I've already said why I do what I do, and those who get it are already here and continue to support me. Those who subscribe to what I stand for find value in my message, and I hope that it helps elevate them too, one way or another. Some of these so-called divestment content creators are misleading a lot of you younger women especially into believing that all you have to do is date out and everything will be okay. That's a naive and unhealthy, potentially dangerous stance to take. Exploring and expanding your dating options does not mean completely abandoning your due diligence in making sure that number one, you are safe, and number two, you end up with the right person. And please understand that this is not to deter anyone from dating out. Just remember during your vetting process that life is not a fairy tale. Trust your instincts and let reality lead the way. Relationships are not a fantasy. Some of these women aren't being truthful about interracial dating for reasons best known to themselves. I find it interesting on how she confidently pontificated her perception of me just from one post. And I have to admit, I did the same thing too, but it's my job to be analytical. Her comment, on the other hand, was as clear as day to me. She's a pick-me with no standards And her desperate need to be picked means she would go with any man of any race who will pay her any type of attention while disregarding their potential motives. Another fact about me: I don't compete with other women for anything, but especially not for men. Never have and never will. When other people bring up competition to me, this is what you need to understand. The only person that I compete with is myself. I know it's a foreign concept to a lot of people, but that's who I am. I'm always trying to self-improve, and part of that means I have to analyze my own behavior from past experiences in order to do better. I do a lot of self-reflection with emphasis on introspection. Competing for men or gagging to be picked would be a shallow and simplistic mindset for me, and it would hurt the very nature of who I am if I operated at such a low vibration. Men usually gravitate towards me and not the other way around. Sadly, Miss Thing over here is not the only one in this space with this kind of mindset. There are these groups of women who claim to be divested, but you can always pick them out of a crowd because the things they say are far from a divested mindset. These UDs, as I call them, or undivested divestors, or IDs, internet divestors, find comfort in online drama while taking aim at any woman who tries to point out that you have to be careful with quote-unquote zaddies as well, because even they aren't perfect. To any intelligent woman, that should be common sense, but not when it comes to these women. The crabs in a barrel mentality is always on display because making them come to terms with this level of reality means you are responsible for bursting their little online bubble or dream of ever interracially dating. And this is how I know that a lot of these women aren't healed, because they are ready and willing to accept anything from other groups of men simply because it comes wrapped and packaged in a different race. It's a sad state of affairs, but this is reality. So I'll be back with part 2, in which we're going to discuss Jodie Turner-Smith and Joshua Jackson's divorce and tackling the question, are divestors jealous of white women? We'll talk about that and more in part 2. On that note, what are your thoughts on what's been discussed here today? Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, ladies, divestment is not a male-centered movement. It's about you changing your circumstances, improving your life, and separating yourself from toxicity. It's about cultivating the best version of you and living your life authentically. It's not about swapping black male worship for white or other male worship by pedestalizing them and holding them as the pinnacle of your existence. You are the most important part of your own divestment. This is not just a quote-unquote movement. It's a mindset, a lifestyle, and not a dating contest. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Diamond Chrysalis. You've been watching Divestment with Purpose. Divest like a butterfly, and I'll see you next time. Bye, diamonds.